Welcome to Strange Weekly News. In this show, we'll be taking a look into the news and headlines to pick out curious reports of the strange, the weird, and the mysterious. Anything from UFO news to science advancements, the paranormal, and stuff labeled fringe science and fringe phenomena. Each news item we go over in the show, I will put the links to them in the description box below once this live show is over, as well as chapters on the timeline index. Hello, everyone watching this live. Hides, Zenza, Dio, The South, Jonaside, Jessica, Chris, Sunspot. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to all of our first time viewers and listeners as well. Before we get started, I would like to mention that on Tuesday, now that the interview format show has shifted a little bit, shifting the paradigm, get my joke there. Well, because this is my final semester in school, it is the most intense, and that interview format show takes an incredible amount of time to prep for and things like this, to where I created a new show type format. It's a 1 hour format show, and it's in relations to top five. So this Tuesday was the top five cryptid encounters, and on the panel were my moderators for YouTube and Discord. It was a fantastic conversation. Then on Thursday, on Mysteries with a History with Jimmy Church from Faded Black Radio, we covered ancient pyramids around the world. Also, make sure to check out my space ambient music channel on YouTube called Cosmic Portals. That can help you fall asleep, relax, meditate, or even study with. And more music is coming soon. And let me tell you, this last track that I'm making, it's my favorite track so far. You are gonna love it. So make sure to follow me on Twitter to stay up to date with my news and updates at eyes_on the skies. Now you might be noticing, wow, Christina, nice sweater. Well, thank you so much. This is the new Skinwalker Ranch hoodie that I received from the Fugals. They were so sweet to me. They sent me a hoodie and 2 t-shirts, and this is like stinking comfortable, guys. Like, it is so soft on the inside. And what I like about this one is that Skinwalker Ranch, it's embroidery, so like no matter how many times you put it in the washing machine, it's never gonna fade. Also, it's cold, so I was like, putting on a sweater today. But we have a lot of news to talk about, and as you probably know, if you are watching this today, it's January 13th, and it is a Friday. Therefore, it is Friday the 13th. I'm going to share an image here as a visual aid because we're going to talk about some of the superstitions going on this infamous day and possibly how it started. Turns out we don't really know. We don't really know how it started, but there is some speculation. Well, it says, while Friday the 13th may feel like a rare phenomenon, our Gregorian calendar, excuse me, let me fix this one moment, means that the 13th of any month is slightly more likely to fall on a Friday than any other day of the week. Interesting, right? It's not, however, a universal superstition. In Greece and Spanish speaking countries, it is Tuesday the 13th that is considered a day of bad luck, while in Italy, it is Friday the 17th that is met with fear. I didn't know that, but very interesting information. So, how did this all start? And some believe that it might have started with the Last Supper. So, the Last Supper seemed to put a curse on the number 13. The 13th and the most infamous guest to arrive, Judas, the disciple who betrayed Jesus, leading to his crucifixion. But like many superstitions that have evolved over time and across cultures, it is difficult to pinpoint the precise origins of Friday the 13th. What we do know now, though, is that both Friday and the number 13 have been regarded as unlucky in certain cultures throughout history. In the book Extraordinary Origins of Everyday Things, traces the concept of the curse back to Norse mythology. When Loki, the god of mischief, crashed a banquet in Valhalla, bringing the number of gods in attendance to 13. Deceived by Loki, the blind god Hoarder was tricked into shooting his brother, the god of light, joy, and goodness, with a mistletoe tipped arrow, killing him instantly. In biblical tradition, the concept of unlucky Fridays stretches back even further than the crucifixion. Friday is said to be the day that Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge, the day Cain murdered his brother Abel, and the day that the Temple of Solomon was toppled, and the day Noah's ark set sail in the great flood. There's more to this. In 1907, the publication of Thomas W. Lawson's popular novel Friday the 13th captured the imagination with its tale of an unethical broker who took advantage of the superstitions around the date to deliberately crash the stock market. Then in the 1980s, superstition went pop with the launch of Friday the 13th slasher franchise starring, as we're looking at right here, hockey mask killer Jason Voorhees. Now, some numerologists believe the number 13 is considered unlucky because of its relation to the number 12. Numerologists consider 12 a complete number: 12 months in a year, 12 apostles, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 laborers of Hercules, 12 gods of Olympus, and 12 hours on a clock. According to National Geographic, more than 80% of high rise buildings avoid having a 13th floor. Hospitals skip the 13th floor, and many hotels skip having a room number 13. Some airports even skip having a gate 13. Also, on this day, it seems that a lot of people attempt to avoid going to work as well because they see it as unlucky. So let me ask you this question: how many of you avoid work today? How many of you called in sick and stating, I'm sorry, boss, I can't come in. It's Friday the 13th. Oh, darn, I'm sick. Right? Something like that. Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments on if you skipped work today. That's right, Mark. Some buildings have the 13th floor. Yes, some do, but about 80%, according to National Geographic, do not. Now, whenever I am out and about, I always look to see if there's a 13th floor. I do. Knowing this superstition, I'm like, I gotta check. Hides, never, for the record. You've never skipped a day? Is that what you're referring to? Oh, nice. Jessica says, my son played hooky from school today. It's because it's an unlucky day considered by many. Oh, Zenza says, don't call in sick. Call in unlucky. Valid. I'm in for that. Jonacide says, went to work and got into it with my boss. Should have taken the day off. Ugh. Dang. That's unfortunate. But it is an interesting day full of superstition. And between you and me, don't tell anybody. Don't tell any horror fans. I've actually never seen Friday the 13th. I'm not into that like kind of genre of movies. I know you're probably thinking, you haven't seen it, Christina. No, I have not. Will I watch it? Maybe. Maybe not. But something that was just dropped yesterday that of course we have to talk about is the newly released UAP report. Now, I did go into detail on this on Spaced Out Radio last night. But for those that didn't see it, don't worry. We are going to get into that today as well. Also, we have new viewers, new listeners every single day. And those also that are just getting into the topic that are like, what? There was a report released? Yes, there was, by the Pentagon. And we were supposedly promised this for October 31st of 2022. But instead, we got it yesterday, January 12th. I was in the dark with this report. I didn't know it was coming out yesterday. It was news to me. Some people got a nudge to my understanding when I was on the panel of Spaced Out Radio, and I'm like everybody else. I am nobody special. Nobody told me anything. T-Car, Thank you so much for supporting the RV Fund. And I would like to mention that all of the super chats, all the YouTube members and Patreon subscribers, all of that goes straight to the RV Fund. It goes straight to the channel. So all of that money that you are bringing here is going straight back to you. So thank you. Thank you so much. So, talking about this report and this image that we're seeing on screen for those that are watching this on YouTube, this is the cover page of this article of this report. It's 12 pages. Out of those 12 pages, that is including the index, the appendix, the cover page, and all of this absolute nonsense. So, out of those 12 pages, you're maybe getting 8. Out of those 8 pages, it's about half a page for each page that we're looking at. And maybe we're getting a good, decently good 2 paragraphs out of these 8 to 12 pages. Now, I do not expect many of you to read this report unless you're super interested in this conversation, especially when we are dealing with reports from the Pentagon. If you're into that, fantastic. If you read it, you were probably disappointed. Now, for my younger viewers and listeners that may not be familiar with this topic, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, what the heck did I just read? Like, none of these words make sense in this sentence. I get you. I do. And that was the whole purpose for this report, to make it sound as boring and as undigestible as possible. Did they achieve that? They sure did. But if you know what to look for, if you've been in this field for quite some time, or if you know how to read reports such as these, which we did receive one in June of 2021, the preliminary report. If you've seen that one, you can look at this one and you're like, okay, I kind of getting the feels of how to understand this, but yeah, it's still much. I was very lucky to find this report, like many others, on Twitter. If I wasn't on Twitter yesterday, I would not have seen this report because I'm not one of those people that is constantly refreshing the dni.gov website waiting for this report for 73 days. That's how many days it was late. 73 days. So for those troopers out there that posted it on Twitter as soon as it was released, bless your heart. So looking at this, it's something that I would state, if you can watch a rundown, it's probably better than reading it. But what was there was a few interesting pieces about this. A wording that was really caught my attention. One of them being, quote, of the 171 remaining, an unstated number of UAPs display anomalous flight characteristics slash abilities and require further analysis. See, that it's like the easy way out. It requires further analysis. Well, that was what the preliminary report was for, right? So that when we got this one, we would have all the information that we need. But here's a important piece of information. That first report was released by the AOI MSG. This report is released by Arrow. So people have stated that this report is practically the preliminary report of Arrow. So is it anything new? No, we're not really getting any new information other than from the first report, there were 144 cases that were investigated, only one was solved. Now, in the second one, we have 366 additional reports. Now, I don't think this is because they got some extra staff on board, but some are saying in and out of the government, it's a combination of an uptick in sightings, and then those reports are finding the right way to investigators as well. But I'm also surprised that, according to the report, no cases with adverse health effects were found. I mean, that's a good thing, right? But as we all know, there are alleged encounter reports over the years where there have been detrimental health reports. So I have to wonder what language would be used if it was disclosed that these unknowns were hurting people. Now, Chris Mellon wrote a beautiful article on his website titled Key Takeaways from the 2023 ODNI UAP Report, and he gives a really good, thorough rundown. If you want to read it, I do recommend it if you are interested in this topic. But I am going to pull a few things from what he wrote. And he states, unfortunately, the report presents the bare minimum of information needed to comply with Congress report for an unclassified report. In some regards, the report is even less informative than the initial preliminary report released in June of 2021. For example, the preliminary report disclosed the number of incidents that were confirmed by multiple sources, such as radar, visible, and infrared. Moreover, as noted earlier, New York Times columnist Julian Barnes claims unnamed DoD officials told him some of the incidents involved Navy ships swarmed by strange lights proved to be Chinese drones. That information may be in the classified report, but it is not in this unclassified report. There is also no indication in the report if any of the 314 events were in space or underwater or were attributable to foreign governments. In this report, like I think it's like on the first page, it stated that there is an unclassified report and there is a classified report. And the same thing that we saw in the congressional hearing of May of 2022, when you had Bray and Moultrie stating, oh, we're also going to have a closed door meeting as well. It is heartbreaking for the public. It pulls my heartstrings. And I know I'm not the only one in this community where I hear that. Sorry, we're going to have a private meeting. Sorry, there's also a classified report that you're probably never going to see ever. Ugh, it hurts. It hurts a lot. Chris also mentions that the government again demonstrated its unique and uncanny ability to transform an inherently fascinating topic into vexing bureaucratic jargon. If the intent was to make the report as unremarkable and boring as possible, the authors did exceptionally well. I say this partly in jest, but in truth, it appears efforts were made to minimize the impact of the data. For example, there is an incredible stark contrast between the stunning testimony of UAP capabilities reported by Navy pilots, such as something not from this earth, and the flaccid UAP report language, which by contrast asserts, quote, some of these uncharacterized UAP appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. He is absolutely right. This, if you read the report, it is boring. The language that they use is bland, but also complex if you don't know what you're looking for. And it seems like that was the purpose of it because your average citizen isn't going to read this report. They don't find it interesting. They want the rundown, and I get that. Cuz when I read this the first time, I was so excited. I'm like, I cannot wait to get my hands on this. Am I expecting anything earth-shattering? No, absolutely not. But we finally got the report that we were promised. However, it was 73 days late. But either way, I want to read it. So I read it like ninja fast through Twitter. And I'm like, what did I read? Like, excuse me? And it took a good 2 or 3 thorough reads after that first really exciting one to kind of get an understanding of, okay, now I'm seeing what's going on, and we're not getting too much information. But once again, if you do want to read that, all of the links will be in the description box below. And I will also place Chris Mellon's article because it is a great read. Moving on to something a little more strange, because we are dealing with strange news. Let me pull up an image here. Just give me a moment, please, as a visual aid for those watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, jump over to YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well so that you can watch these shows live. Well, what we're looking at here is a tractor that is fully powered by cow dung, cow manure, cow poop. That's what we're getting at, and it's pretty darn cool. So, the liquid methane gas powered T7 vehicle is said to be the first of its kind and could mark a turning point in efficient energy supply on UK farms. The pioneering 270 bhp tractor runs on fuel captured from farmland manure and is said to match the performance of standard diesel powered versions. That is cool, right? Cow power. That's right, Marty. That should be the name of the tractor. I would just by the name alone, I would buy that. I'm not a farmer and I don't know how to use a tractor, but I'd be like cow power. I'm in. Forget horsepower. Get cow power. Yeah. Poo power as well, Nick. Yep, absolutely. Also great. Would I buy that? Probably a little bit less. Doesn't sound enticing like cow power, but it still makes you raise an eyebrow, being like, what is going on here? So it works by collecting waste byproducts from a herd as small as 100 cows in a biomethane storage unit based on the farm. The gas, known as fugitive methane, is then treated, compressed, and turned into the low emission fuel. So, this invention has been in the works for quite a few years and it will soon be released to the public. Actually, the production has been going on for over a decade of attempting to develop this tractor that we're looking at here. And I do have some more images. Here's another one. Also, a very pretty picture. I do like this. My photographic eye is like, oh, this is well done if you're looking at the rule of thirds and things like that. But that's not what we're here for today. Here's another image of a close up of this. So the company said that we've shown that harnessing the potential of biomethane can make farms energy independent and carbon neutral. The company is also investigating the wider users of the technology and hope it could one day be used to charge electric vehicles in rural locations. This is very cool. That's right, Woods. It takes a lot of producing. It definitely does. Right, New? It is a very nice picture. Totally agree with you. John says battery power is taken over. It might be, but with this methane, I think it's a really cool concept. I'm digging it. That's right, Todd. That's right. I said that. Love it. Carbon neutral. Yeah, that part was a little bit interesting, but that's what the company is stating that they do want to be energy independent and carbon neutral. Wood says cost more to produce than you save. Is it? I guess we'll find out. Jessica says they took gas seriously. That's a funny one. But that was a very short article. Let's move on to our next one. Are you enjoying these so far? I sure hope you are, because when I find these articles, I gotta think, are they gonna like this? Because I'm liking these. I only pick things that I like and I think that you'll like. So let me pull up this next image because we're talking about SpaceX. They're always in the news, it seems like. So we got this image here. So, after years of anticipation, Starship, the massive 395-foot launch vehicle built by Elon Musk's firm SpaceX, may finally get its first orbital flight. Stunning new aerial photos show space Starship stacked on its orbital launch pad, waiting to blast off at the company's Texas facility in Boca Chica, Texas. Musk has already said Starship's first launch into orbit will happen soon, so possibly within the next few months. Now, this launch was supposed to happen in 2022, but there have been some delays, so hopefully we can expect this to launch maybe in February or March, says Elon Musk. Is that going to happen? Well, we simply don't know because from a lot of the things that he's mentioned from his prior missions and inventions, a lot of them have been running late. So, as this article states, his people reading this from his Twitter very specifically, take it as a pinch of salt. We don't really know when this is going to launch, but it is anticipated to launch within the next 2 months. And I'm excited. Of course, I want to see it. Thanks, Woods. I like this hoodie too. Appreciate that. Let me share another image here while I continue. This is nice. This is a beast of a rocket. Well, SpaceX is planning to carry humans to space using a 2-stage spacecraft composed of Starship, the passenger carrying section, and the Super Heavy rocket booster. That's what it's called, Super Heavy rocket booster, which rolls off the tongue nicely. No fancy names, it's very specific to what it does. So together, Starship and Super Heavy measure a whopping 394 feet, or about 120 meters tall, and weigh about 11 million pounds, or 5 million kilograms. That's pretty heavy. Starship is able to generate 16 million pounds of thrust, making it one of the most powerful rockets in the world. The firm has been testing prototypes of the $216 million Starship, previously known as BFR, by launching them into the air and landing them. A full scale orbital test flight of the rocket is still yet to take place, despite Musk saying a year ago that it will likely happen in 2022. Well, it's not going to happen. It's going to be in the next few months, which, again, I'm excited. He's stating February or March. He wrote on Twitter January 8th, stating, "We have a real shot at late February. March launch attempts appears highly likely. Once a successful orbital flight is in the bag, SpaceX will focus on launching valuable satellites and other payloads to orbit on Starship." So, this is our future. We're going to be seeing a lot more of these launches in the next few years, not just from Musk, but from so many other entrepreneurs and millionaires, billionaires as well. So, he is really a pioneer when it comes to this, really pushing the boundaries and getting it done. Is it delayed? Yes, absolutely. But he is setting the foundation for so many future generations. Would be pretty cool. Yay, you made it. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Hyde says, and I think it's gonna, oh, that's a song. Yeah, that's a good song. I do like it, but I'm not gonna sing it because I am not a great singer. Chris says, Cristina, if you had the chance to go into space, would you go? Absolutely, in a heartbeat, no questions, as long as I can bring Puck with me and some snacks and like at least watching an info video on how to handle things in space, like learning how to float properly and stuff. I'd like to watch that, but aside from that, I'm in. Don't even ask me twice. If the opportunity presents itself, and Puck as well, we're going to space. Hyde says ramen is NASA approved. It sure is. And actually, talking about space and ramen, I did write an article for the debrief regarding exactly that. If you do want to check it out, go to thedebrief.com and type in Cristina Gomez, and you're going to find that article that I wrote regarding it. And it blew my mind. I'm like, ramen, space, what could be better? Ice cream as well, which I've total side note. I have tried space ice cream, like dehydrated ice cream. It's grody. I do not dig it. I got it for Christmas, what, like 2 years ago now, and I still have it in my kitchen. Like, I've never eaten it. Had one. I'm like, it was a cookies and cream, like ice cream sandwich one. 0 stars. Have you ever had it? It's not very good. Sunspot says astronaut food is like cat food. Yeah, it is. And a little bit later, we are going to talk about the International Space Station. Patrice says dry ice cream is sad. It is. It is. I wouldn't even recommend it to my worst enemy. It's not that great. Moving on to our next article. I'm going to skip that one But let's look at this. This is pretty interesting. It's a UFO sighting. Let me pull this up. Oh gosh, give me one moment. But here, as I pull it up, we are looking at a UFO sighting that took place in Mexico, very specifically in next to a volcano that supposedly sees a lot of UFO sightings. Now, I don't have the name right in front of me. I know it in my mind. I'm probably going to say it wrong, so I want to pull it up to make sure that I say it correctly. But it is Popocatépetl. Yes, that is the volcano where there are supposedly a lot of UFO sightings. And this image is another one that was just recently released. So, a photographer couple sparked an internet frenzy after they captured an image that appears to show a UFO above an erupting volcano. The photograph shows a disc shaped object hovering above the right side of the 10,000-foot Popocatépetl volcano near and in Mexico. The image, which was taken at 7:52 a.m. on Monday, has gone viral online, with many social media users claiming the flying disc is a UFO. The person that released this to the news goes by the name of Guerra, immediately stated that taking pictures of the volcano on his cell phone, zooming in on the full moon, and to the left side of the cliff that spans across the state of Mexico and Puebla. But when he was taking pictures of the moon, is when he caught this image of the UFO right on top. But to my perspective, it could easily be a bug that is within several feet of the camera that was caught, depending on the shutter speed, I suppose. But if it is something close to the volcanic crater and it is with if it is blurry, it would have to be traveling extremely fast to lose definition. So I'm on the fence with this image. Could it be a bug? Could it be a UFO? First off, we don't have the raw footage. We don't know the shutter speed because usually when pictures are taken on the phone, it's automatic, right? So it adjusts accordingly, and you don't always get that information. Of course, you can go to details and look at that, but that information is not publicly available at the moment. So when we're dealing with images, it is always very difficult, but it is something worth mentioning. It is strange. This is Strange Weekly News. So we got to cover it. And this location is known for UFO sightings. But I also got to wonder where the sun is and the angle of the sunlight because we don't even see a shadow on the object either, which is another interesting point. Could it have been photoshopped? Possibly. We don't have enough information to come up with a good enough conclusion. But this is all important. And as I have stated 2 or 3 times now, this volcano has a UFO history. So at the same time, it's not necessarily surprising, at least for the locals, for someone to have captured a UFO right next to this volcano, which we've covered here on the show before. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Gen X says, is anyone else here still wondering how Christina knows about the word grody? She's too young to have heard the term. I really like movies from the 70s and 80s and 90s as well. And they use the term grody. I think Scooby Doo used the term grody. That's probably where I got it from. But Nick states, probably not Superman. Yeah, I don't think so either, but that'd be really cool. And I'd be in. I'd like to know. Android says, I'm not convinced it's blurry from speed. It's likely blurry cause for the extreme distance without an optical zoom lens. Then objects far away are blurrier. This is interesting to make. This is an interesting point. But everything else is clear in this image and well contrasted. The only thing that is blurry in this image is that UFO. You can see all the details on the volcano. The moon is in beautiful detail as well for a picture taken on the cell phone. The only thing that's blurry is this right here. Why? We got to ask these questions. Thanks, Marty. I appreciate you. I know what you mean. Don't even worry about it. Okay, moving on to our next one. We are speeding through these, but don't worry, I have a bunch of strange articles this week. And this one is very strange. Moving on to our next one. Let me pull up the image here. How many of you are aware of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas? I am not. This was a new to me. I did not know these conventions were a thing where you get a ton of people coming through, looking at all the new gadgets that are going to be released in 2023 and the years prior, right? I was like, that's super cool. Well, there are some new and weird, but yet very interesting pieces of tech that are going to surface in 2023. Hyde, thank you so much for supporting the RV Fund. He states, is strange news the best way to start the weekend or not? It absolutely is. It's the best place to get your news. All the strange news, of course, because that's all we talk about here. Nothing depressing, nothing sad, nothing political, just the strange. So let me share an image here while I go through one, two, three, four, five things, 5 items that are going to be released in 2023. Okay. This first one, well, actually, let me back up just a little bit. With 100,000 expected attendees and nearly 20,000 products displayed by more than 4,500 companies, CES or Consumer Electronics Show in 2023 is the undisputed home to this year's largest and greatest future technology and cool gadgets at the 4-day electronic convention in Las Vegas. Once again, I was not familiar with this convention. Would I go? Yeah, maybe. This is some pretty cool stuff that we're going to see today. This first one that we're looking at right here is a pee sensor. That means you got to pee on it. And as you regularly use the toilet, you might want to ask yourself, I wonder how healthy I am. And as we know, we've been told this by doctors whenever we go visit, they make you pee in a cup. They look at the color, they kind of evaluate you, and they're like, okay, yeah, drink more water, take more vitamins, and things like this. It's important, and this might sound kind of gross. It is important to look at the color so that you know if you need more water or different types of vitamins and things like this, right? Well, this scanner right here makes you pee on it, and then it gives you a scan right on your cell phone of what's going on with you. It measures your pH and vitamin C levels, providing information into your kidneys and digestive health. And in the second cartridge, because there are two, is made for those who want to better track their menstrual cycles. You know, ladies that get their monthly, right? And which uh also where they might be most fertile as well. So this is a very interesting pee scanner that's going to be released in 2023. So for those that want to know more about their health or know about their menstrual cycle, this will be released. We currently do not know how much it costs, but if you're into it, hey, more power to you. But this next one is very cool. It's an eyebrow printer. Now, people in my generation, they are eyebrow fanatics. If you watch like any makeup tutorials, which I had to learn how to do to put on makeup, I did not used to put on makeup before doing these shows on YouTube. I didn't. But I had to learn how to watch tutorials to get stuff right. And I was like, what? An eyebrow printer? That's very cool. Would I want one? Probably not. But L'Oreal's new Brow Magic Machine is a handheld electronic makeup applicator and has made this a near reality. So you take a picture of yourself, you take a selfie, then in this picture, you scan through the app to see which eyebrows fit your face the best, and then you just print them on. Now, it's not permanent, of course, you can remove it with your typical makeup removers and then change it up if those eyebrows don't fit your face. But it is very cool, and it's just going to be released in 2023 by L'Oreal. Our next one, and this one is so darn cool because I love cooking. But I don't like using ovens because it makes the whole place incredibly toasty hot. But this oven that can live stream your cooking. How many of you want to see your turkey roast during Thanksgiving or during the holidays? Not me. But if you if you do, this is the oven for you. So while most people argue the term AI is needlessly attached to new tech, Samsung's bespoke AI wall oven is out to prove them kind of wrong, but fairly on the money. That's because the main feature of this oven is its internal camera that lets you keep a close eye on your cooking from your cell phone. And you can also live stream your meal in process to your social media followers. If you check on YouTube, if you check on Instagram, even if you check on TikTok, cooking videos do amazing. They do so well, and I'm a victim. I enjoy watching cooking shows to help inspire me to cook something for dinner at least once, right? So people live streaming their what's being cooked in the oven would probably do so well if you're a cooking influencer of some kind. But would I get this one? Probably not. No, but this next one, if you are a dog lover, this one might be for you because this is a messaging service for your dog. And this is the last one that we're going to cover regarding this, but pretty much you place up a bunch of buttons that say water, outside, bone, play, and the dog can literally text you from your phone while you're gone. And this was made famous by TikTok's Bunny the Dog. And I haven't seen that, but it is something that if you are a dog lover, this would be an interesting piece of equipment for you. And it's something that I'm like, I'm more of a cat person here. But let me move on over to our next one, and it's actually a UFO sighting in Arizona, and I'm pulling up my notes here and then pulling up an image as well. This is an actual image of the supposed Tic Tac. Now, I brought up a point on Spaced Out Radio yesterday talking about Tic Tacs, the Tic Tac UFO, how we don't usually hear reports of them being on land. They're always near the water or emerging from the water or entering the water. But then I came across this report that totally helped me answer a few questions that I had. Well, an Arizona witness at Tucson reported watching and videotaping a hovering tic tac shaped object over Davis Monthan Air Force Base at 12:15 a.m. on January 4th, 2023, according to a testimony from the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON. The witness was driving southbound when he saw a large white glowing tic tac shaped object that he saw hovering over the base. And the witness first thought that something was falling from the sky. He states it was hanging vertically and appeared to be descending, then stabilized. The witness watched the object for more than 30 seconds to a minute. He states, there appeared to be a haze around the object, and it seemed to be brighter than white. It rotated to a horizontal position and appeared to collapse or shrink and disappear. Before I continue, that little sliver of information, that little detail that he stated, there appeared to be a haze around the object. We hear that time and time again with UFO sightings, and I have said this so many times, and I bring up this same detail every time that it's mentioned in one of these articles. What is that haze? What is going on? What is the purpose of it? Is some kind of force field, something like this? Is it because of all the energy that's being released by these craft? Is it some type of it attempts to cloak the object from radar? We don't have the answers to that. But what's interesting is that this was seen over an Air Force base. And we've talked about that as well. Android says, why are UFOs usually so blurry? If Bob Lazar is correct about them manipulating gravity as its propulsion source, then it would likely create a bending of light and space around it. This is a great point to bring up because it's a possibility, but we don't have the answers to that. We don't have the concrete evidence. Where's Puck? Puck is right here. He's been a little bit under the weather. So he's not hanging out with me today, but he is wearing his beanie, keeping his head warm because he's a little sick. So I gotta make him some tea later. Some echinacea tea with ginger, honey, and lemon. That is like the kicking of butts when it comes to a cold. So now you know that recipe. It's my secret recipe, guys. So the witness observed that there was a lot of traffic in the area at the time, which means that there were more witnesses. One video clip was included in the report, but right here we just have the image. And once again, it was located at the Davis Monthan Air Force Base, which is located 5 miles southeast of Tucson. It's very cool. I do like it. Nunu says that makes sense. Yeah, I know. Puck is a little sick. I know, poor Puck, right, guys? He's just a little under the weather. But when listening to this report and seeing this image, what are your thoughts on this? And why do you think that from our understanding and the public reports that we've received, why are there a good amount of UFO sightings seen over Air Force bases? I'd like to hear your thoughts. And have any of you seen something similar to this before? To this image or something similar to the story that I just mentioned to you that was posted on MUFON? Thanks, Cassidy. Get well soon, Puck. Thank you. I'll be sending some soup. Thanks, Hides. No, Zenza. Thank you. Now, I would like to take this moment to thank all of my Patreon subscribers and YouTube members. Their names are right below here on YouTube. All of the money that I had mentioned a little bit earlier, all of the money and donations that you give to this channel go straight back to you. They go straight back to the channel, to the research, the investigations, and the RV fund, which that RV fund will help us go to UFO hotspots, paranormal hotspots to conduct more research. These last 2 years, I have been what's been classified as an armchair researcher, but with the information that I have done so far, it seems that I am ready to do boots on the ground investigations. So it's going to be great. And I'm really, really excited. And I want to say thank you so much to absolutely everyone supporting this channel. And also, I would like to state that I just want to say this again. Like, I just want to give a shout out to those who have been supporting my channel, the research, and my mission for the future with the Mobile Home Research Vehicle Fund, either on Patreon or on the YouTube membership, and even via PayPal as well. So it's very challenging to study full time and stuff full time hours working a regular job into each weekend and keep the channel running. And it simply wouldn't be possible without y'all's support. So if you do want to support my work and get access to a year's worth of behind the scene videos, photos, and after show Q&As with my guests, Patreon is for you. And I'll pop the link into the live chat right now. Okay. So as that continues, I have a few more articles for you, which are really awesome. Let me pull up. Well, let me find my notes. But I did mention a little bit earlier about that we were going to talk about the International Space Station, and there are 5 things that you need to know about the International Space Station. The first one being that it's the size of a football field. The ISS is the largest man made structure ever to be put into orbit. T-Carp, thank you. Thank you so much for supporting all the work that is done here. I encourage you just Don't say my name, my real name, lol. I won't, but thank you so much. So, this was launched in 1998 by the United States, Russia, Canada, Japan, and members of the European Space Agency, the ESA. And it is the size, as I had mentioned, of the football field and weighs about the same as a jam packed Boeing 747. I'm going to share an image here um, as a visual aid so that I can continue reading this for you. But a lot of us, we hear about the International Space Station, but we may not be familiar with all of the information regarding this and the research that goes into it as well. Well, 5 space agencies are representing 15 countries that operate the ISS. NASA and the space agencies of Europe, the ESA, Canada, the CSA, and Japan, the JAXA, run the US orbital segment, which is responsible for providing solar power. The Russian orbital segment, operated by Russian space agency Roscosmos, is responsible for propulsion and maintaining orbit. The US and Russia each supply half of the food needed on the ISS, which is brought by uncrewed Russian and American supply ships, including craft from Elon Musk's SpaceX as well. The space station has a full crew of 7, but the number aboard can reach up to 13 during crew rotations. 8 spaceships can be connected at any one time to the ISS, which can be reached from Earth in about 4 hours. Really cool. And astronauts on the ISS are kept very busy. Their days start at 6 a.m. and then lights go out at around 10:30 p.m. After 8 to 10 hours go to scientific experiments, 2 hours of physical activity to avoid muscle loss in microgravity, and 3 hours for housework, repairs, and leisure time. Some 200 experiments are ongoing at any one time. And the key, says a French astronaut, is to keep busy because if you have nothing to do, it's a bit like a prison with a great view and some fun stuff like floating as well. But then you also have the concept of waste removal. So nobody has a room of their own on the International Space Station, much less a bed. So astronauts slip into sleeping bags that are stowed vertically. And there is very little water on the ISS. Some of it is brought from Earth, with the rest extracted from the air and urine. Wastewater is purified and recycled for use in meals as well. The ISS has neither a shower nor a dishwasher, so astronauts use wipes and air flush remove solid waste, which is compacted into canisters and then loaded onto supply vessels, burning up on re-entering the space atmosphere. But there's also an uncertain future as well. The ISS was never built to last forever. Both NASA and the ESA want to continue operating until at least 2030. But the Russians said in July of 2022, in the midst of the war in Ukraine, that they wanted to withdraw after 2024 in order to set up their own station without making it official. After 2030, the ISS could be retired and plunged into an uninhabited area of the Pacific Ocean, according to NASA, which has announced plans to transition to commercial space stations. This is very interesting, and they're absolutely right. The ISS was not built to be standing there forever. Now, we are aware that they are adding a section to the ISS that's going to be solely for content creators, for people that want to make movies as well, and that um, there's going to be a few actors that have already signed something to go ahead and get themselves to space. So that's going to be really cool to see how those movies turn out and those influencer and whatever the influencers create turns out as well, which is going to be pretty interesting. Now, one thing that sticks really deep into my heart is chocolate. Now, give me a moment as I pull up an image here. I'm also having some technical difficulties with my laptop, so just give me a second here. And now I'm losing my train of thought, but hold on. One thing that I would like to mention before we talk about chocolate, which I do love. Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace fame and former owner of Skinwalker Ranch, has for many years now been developing inflatable space models for future space stations. So this is going to be commercial as well. Commercial enterprise in space is the future. And we're seeing this with Elon Musk. We're seeing this with Jeff Bezos. And NASA are looking seriously at Robert Bigelow's products. We also know that there's going to be more tourism when it comes to space, and we've already seen it once. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that. And we are a spacefaring species, so we're not going to be earthbound forever, but we're going to be exploring. We're going to be tourists around our solar system, and that's something that we should expect in the next 20, 30 years, if that, which we're already seeing now in 2023. But moving on to some delicious chocolate. How many of you love chocolate? I will tell you from the heart, when I was reading this article, preparing for today's show, I had a hankering for some chocolate that I like just guzzled some right before the show today, because when you say certain keywords, right? When you read something that invokes a desire, yeah, you're gonna go for it. So if you do have chocolate in the house, go ahead and grab it before before we got into today's article. But I will say this, while I do love some good chocolate, it really does break me out. Like, I get really bad acne, my skin goes nuts. Chocolate, dairy products, they mess me up. But do I sacrifice my skin for chocolate? Every single time. So I just wear more makeup and cover the acne. All right, let's get into this. I'm going to share an image here as a visual aid. But again, if you do have chocolate in the house, please go grab some so that you won't feel tortured as I read this article to you. So, by analyzing each of the steps, this research done by the University of Leeds hopes it will lead to the development of a new generation of luxury chocolates that will have the same feel and texture, but will be healthier to consume. During the moments in the mouth, the chocolate sensation arises from the way the chocolate is lubricated, either from ingredients in the chocolate itself or from saliva or a combination of the two. Fat plays a key function almost immediately when a piece of chocolate is in contact with the tongue. After that, solid cacao particles are released and they become important in terms of the tactile sensation. So, fat deeper inside the chocolate plays a rather limited role and could be reduced without having any impact on the feel or sensation of chocolate. Because as we know, when we bite into a really good piece of solid chocolate, it melts on the tongue beautifully. While we do love that sugar aspect of it, it's that sensation that really gets to us. For myself in particular, I love placing chocolate in the refrigerator to get that nice, like hard crunch. But then when it's in my mouth, it just dissolves very nicely. Another good example of this is Maltesers. Ah, love those chocolates. And I let them just sit there and let them dissolve. And it's like, wow, ooh, it's incredible. But I'm seeing in the comments that a lot of you are like, "R.I.P. Puck. He's just a little sick." But I'll put him on here on the mic, so that everyone can see him. He was also snacking on a little bit of chocolate because we're talking about chocolate in today's show, and I am so lucky to have Maltesers on my desk, and I'm trying my absolute hardest not to eat them while reading this article, but it's difficult. Maltesers, if you haven't tried them, they're amazing. So much better than Whoppers if you live in the United States. Whoppers are gross. But if you're British, You know what I'm talking about here because this is where it's at. Whoppers, throw those in the trash. Maltesers, it's where it's at. So, let's continue with this article. So, if a chocolate has 5% fat or 50% fat, it will still form droplets in the mouth that give you that chocolate sensation. However, it is the location of the fat in the makeup of the chocolate which matters in each state of lubrication, and that has been rarely seen from researchers. Renee says, I love malt Whopper. No, I they're not for me. But have you ever tried Maltesers? Because if you have, then you'll never ever go back to Whoppers. Like never. But if you haven't, then I get you. That makes sense then. Mark says, fun fact, flake chocolate does not melt. I didn't know that. Jessica says, I hate Whoppers. Ditto. Annie says, Maltesers. They're so good. Yes. I give it a solid 10 out of 10. 5 stars. I'm actually addicted to them at the moment. But the purpose of this article is finding ways to make chocolate healthier because we are aware it is just sugar, milk, and cacao. That's all we're getting. There's not really anything good about it other than the sensation that it gives you. Researchers are looking at a way to make them healthier, but still as satisfying to eat. Because if you try like the really healthy chocolate, for instance, like super dark chocolate, I've tried it to attempt to be healthier because it's supposedly good for your heart. It tastes like dirt. Sorry, it does. I love milk chocolate that has so much sugar. But talking about chocolate, it is just giving me the hiccups. Could do it all day. Chocolate all day. But moving on to our next article, which this one does go into great detail on the science behind it and the investigations that they found. But we don't have too much time to go into it in detail. But it's so good. I did. I did. Just hiccup. Snickers, also very good. Arrowmint, I am not fond with the whole chocolate and mint thing. It's like mint chocolate chip ice cream. That is like having toothpaste with chocolate chips in it. I probably made a few people angry stating that, but I love ice cream. I love every single flavor of ice cream except mint chocolate chip. It just makes my brain confused. Thank you, David. Hey, sister, I appreciate you and your shows. I pray for you to get your RV. Thank you so much. Well, I'll be graduating in the summer, and so I am planning on purchasing an RV in the summer as well, which is going to be awesome. And all of you guys are coming with me on the adventures around the United States because everything will be documented, which is going to be awesome. Cassidy says, ice cream. Yes. Gora G says Mars bars are better than Snickers. Totally agree with you. British chocolate in general is just so much better than American chocolate. I'm with you on that one. Hyde says dark chocolate gets better as you get older. I've been told that like your taste buds change over time. You get less of a sweet tooth for the most part. But right now, dark chocolate is it's not for me. It's a little bit too bitter when it's meant to be like delicious. Quick side story, just really fast. Whenever I used to like go out of town for whatever reason, my ritual was to always stop at the local ice cream parlor to try a new ice cream. But it always ended up being vanilla with sprinkles, like every single time. I'm a vanilla gal. Sprinkles and M&Ms is where it's at. But I would always make sure whenever I was traveling anywhere, even to like the town next door, I gotta get ice cream along the way. And it has to be either from like a local ice cream parlor or I don't know, like a fast food place. I'm also okay with those as well. Like McFlurries with M&Ms, delicious. Chocolate Frosties from Wendy's, amazing. Love them all. But we're getting off topic here. Let's move on over to our next article. And this one is really, really cool. And it's regarding growing retinas in a lab. When I'm talking about retinas, I'm talking about your eyeballs right here. Now, I do not have good eyesight. I have been wearing glasses since I was 10 years old. I was a part of that nerd category in school. Glasses, braces, acne, that was me. And yeah, not a great time. But lab grown retinas can help restore your vision, and they are a step closer to getting to human trials. So, scientists from the University of Wisconsin Madison in the US have created a light sensitive eye cells grown in a lab to reconnect after separation, an important step for transplantation into patients to treat various eye diseases. Now, this in particular would not help your eyesight if you just have like bad eyesight, but it will supposedly treat various eye diseases. So, working together, these cells combined with other cells to form the retina, a thin layer of tissue at the back of the eye responsible for transforming wavelengths of light into signals to the brain. This is what interprets as vision. So, and this is a really interesting concept that they probably learned in school at some point, have it be high school or in college, or maybe if you just watched it on YouTube, which is also a really great way to learn as well, as you can tell right here, right now, today. But if you look at the eye, it's kind of crazy how your eye is only taking in wavelengths, and then going from there interpreting what you're seeing, the objects that you're seeing, and then creating your environment or a story, right? The things that you're seeing around you. And it's all coming from wavelengths. That's it. And when you think about it like that, it's wild. You're like, there's no way. That is pure magic right there. But it's not. It's just science. It's just a better understanding of how our eyes work. So when I came across this article, it made me think once again about the first time I was mind blown when I got that information about wavelengths. That's all the eye is seeing. And then we're interpreting it up in our minds. Sunspot, it's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely is. Android says your eye is kind of a visual decoder of Morse code. Yes, it is. Definitely is. That eye emoji is very appropriate for today. It's very weird, Nick. I'm with you on that one. So, it's been a goal of researchers to grow retinal cells outside of the body to use them to replace dead or dysfunctional tissues inside of the eye. In 2014, researchers generated the cell cluster self organized into 3D forms in a lab that resembled the form and function of a real retina. They did this by reprogramming human skin cells to act as stem cells, which were then encouraged to develop into several types of retinal cells. This was back in 2014. Now, there have been improvements since, but back in the day, it was pretty good. Now, I'm not stating like back in the day, like that was like super long ago, but in the terms of science, that's a pretty long time ago. Last year, the same team published studies showing that lab grown retinal cells could respond to different wavelengths and intensities of light, as well as research out towards neighboring cells to make connections. According to the lead researcher, the new study is the last piece of the puzzle. So, after this code is cracked, we can start seeing this. We can start getting fake retinal cells, right? And heal eye different types of eye viruses. Neurostream, thank you so much for supporting the channel and the RV fund. Do appreciate that. So this is a big step, and we're seeing a lot of advancements when it comes to health, science, and things like this. And it's very interesting that this right here is dealing and attempting to improve health conditions, health ailments, and dealing with all of these types of things regarding the eye. So it is very, very cool. and something that hopefully we will be alive to see and working. Last week, we did talk about how there was a man that got a artificial pig's heart and he lived for a few months and then passed afterward. But that was a monumental event because it was through that man who stated, "Yes, you can test on me and hopefully heal others in the process in the future." He survived for a few months before he passed away due to that heart surgery. And now we're dealing with this. With this new test with retinal cells, it's very close to getting to human trials as well because as we know, it goes to animals first and then it gets to humans. Which is, yes, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it's been for decades, if not what, a century or two by now. Patrice says, they tell me if I didn't have glasses at 8 years old, I would be blind today. Wouldn't have learned to see what was coming in, even with glasses. Did I know that? I'm so sorry. But luckily, that didn't wasn't the case. You have glasses, you can see the world, and that's really important. My favorite kind of glasses are the ones that change in the sun. They're like normal indoors, and then they turn into sunglasses. That was the best $100 I've ever spent. I because y For those that wear glasses, you understand the struggle. You go outside and it's so bright, and then you gotta put sunglasses over your glasses, and then you just look crazy, and it's super uncomfortable. But if you have glasses that turn into sunglasses, your life is solved, and it's the best thing ever. Chris says, "They said they would be able to make blind people see." I didn't know that. That's very interesting. My eyes are special, says Nunu. Rock on. But yeah, looking at this, it's interesting to see what our future holds. And while we're looking at these advancements when it comes to our health, there's another one regarding something very similar to this that I have for you. And I need to find it because I'm going all over the place with my articles today. I'm not going in order, which is bad for me, but great for you. And this one is regarding a whole brain transplant. This has been in the works for quite a few decades, but we're just now supposedly seeing progress with this. Now, I'm going to share an image here of one of the doctors that's doing extensive research into this. Let me pull that up for you while I read this article. Here it is. I mean, he looks like a mad scientist, does he not? And you got to be pretty mad to think about doing something like this. So, the human brain is an amazing piece of biological machinery responsible for everything from dreaming up Shakespeare's sonnets to the muscle coordination of scoring a World Cup winning goal. Yet, even with our brains remain spray into our old age and our bodies often don't. So, what if we replaced them? What if we placed our brain that has all of the information into a new body, like we've seen in so many sci fi movies, right? Well, the idea came from a controversial neurosurgeon, Sergio Canevero, that we're seeing right here, who claims in a recent article that it could be technically feasible to starve off aging by simply scooping out a person's brain and plopping it into a younger, more agile body. The article called Whole Brain Transplantation in Man Technically Feasible was published in Surgical Neurology International, or the SNI. So, if this procedure is ringing any bells, it may be because Canavero put forward a similar idea back in 2015 that proposed a full head transplant. And this definitely it blew a lot of people's minds. And it's something that a lot of people were like, "Are you out of your mind?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, eh, we're gonna do it anyway." But To this day, even though this was released in 2015, he is still doing consistent research on this. So to continue with this article, but first, before we even do that, what do you think about this? Is this crazy? Do you think it's our future? We're expecting to see this where we all want younger bodies, which the answer is yes. The older you get, everything begins to hurt. And that happens, your body begins to deteriorate by the age of 23. Now, the brain doesn't mature supposedly until the age of 25. So there's not that balance there. But I think it's interesting that this is taking place, that this research has been going on since about 2015, give or take a little bit. And it's technically, from his words, technically feasible. What do you think about this? Todd says, totally cringeworthy. I feel you on that. Chris says, it's alive! Alive! Yeah, very, very Frankenstein-esque. Gen X says bogus. Nunu says Frankenstein is necessary for the zombie apocalypse. Okay. Mark says great idea, but where do we get these spare bodies? Maybe they're going to be built in a lab. Maybe they were donated to science. See, that's where the ethical question comes in, where it gets a little tough with this. Mikael says mind-blowing. It is. It is. And while it is cringeworthy, while it is a little bit scary, maybe a conversation that a lot of people don't want to have, unfortunately, it is in our future. And we can just take a look at sci-fi movies, for instance, or we're dealing with cyborgs, where we put a brain in a robotic/human body, right? And it's doing its thing and never has to age, never has to deal with any types of pains due to aging, but the brain is constantly maturing, right? Gaining more information through experiences and the environment. So I think maybe in 50 years, 100 years, this will be such a normal conversation that people will be having. But right now in 2023, yeah, it's a little bit scary because there hasn't been a sufficient amount of research done on it yet. Tests done. Zenza says Gene Wilder approves. Bet he does. Chris says it's totally wrong. Hi, Rob. How you doing? T Car says rich people will do it. Oh, without a doubt. Rich people start on everything. But see, they're kind of like the mice, right? The test dummies. And then your average person can get into it after they've seen everyone else do it. So, it's not too terrible once it becomes available to everyone. So, it's not too bad. But this article does also go into more detail for those that would like to read it because it is interesting. It is something that Canavero does talk about in detail on his research that he's been doing since about 2015. And again, it's our future. Here's another image that he has here, where he originally, in his first studies, wanted to take the entire head and then place it on a new body. But now he's stating, no, let's just go for the brain, but the brain in a new body, which is like the entire head. But then you have this issue of having a new face, right? A whole new body, and how to work with that, something that isn't yours, something that you didn't grow up with. That has a lot of problems in itself, and how to adapt to that properly. We are aware that the very first person that had a face transplant dealt with depression, severe depression, because that face, she didn't own it. It wasn't hers. But at the same time, she did feel like she needed to persevere with her life because with this face that she had that wasn't hers, she felt like it was a part of her, but that she was also living the life of the person's face that was donated to her. Sounds a little bit complicated, but that is something that also needs to be considered is the psychological aspects with this conversation. And it's a bit wild. So I have one last article for you before we end today's show. And this one is for all of my space nerds out there. This one's really interesting. Let me pull up an image as a visual aid for you. Let me pull that up. Okay. So, gases that organisms produce as they tidy up their environment could provide clear signals of life on planets orbiting other stars, researchers announced January 9th at the American Astronomical Society meeting. All we need to do to find hints of alien life is to look for those gases in the atmosphere of those exoplanets, in images coming from the James Webb Space Telescope or other observatories that could come online soon. At least one type of compound that some organisms produce to protect themselves from toxic elements is called methylated gases. I was looking for that word. But this includes microbes, fungi, algae, and plants are among the terrestrial organisms that create the chemicals by linking carbon and hydrogen atoms to toxic materials such as chlorine and bromine. And the resulting compounds evaporate, sweeping the deadly elements away. So, this is another biosignature that astronomers can look for when looking at exoplanets that could potentially harbor life are these methylated gases. And I find this absolutely interesting because every single day are we not only finding new exoplanets, but we're also finding ways on attempting to see if there's life on them. So this information was just released January 9th, and it is groundbreaking for people to start looking for. And also, this article does go into more detail on that. But the fact that living creatures almost always have a hand in making these gases means the presence of the compounds in a planet's atmosphere would be a strong sign of life of some kind. Now, we're not saying it's intelligent life, but it is life of some kind, very specifically dealing with plants and things like this. But that can give us hope to think okay, if there's plant life, that means that intelligent life could potentially survive there because they have a food source, right? So if you go down this domino effect of thoughts, it's really interesting information and super cool. I'm so excited about this. So, similarly, while living organisms produce methane in abundance, lifeless geological phenomena like volcanoes do as well. And this is something that also needs to be considered when astronomers think that they found a biosignature is can it first off be made naturally by the environment such as volcanoes? And then you can start thinking or is it plants? And then you can look into technosignatures, right? And so all of these theories and thoughts need to be considered before jumping to the conclusion that it's ET, that it's some type of intelligent life or an intelligent civilization. You got to start small, start from the foundation up before you get your hopes up a little too high. All of these articles you can find in the description box below once this live show is over. But those are all of the articles that I have for you today. Out of all the ones that we covered, which one was your favorite and why? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments. Make sure to hit the thumbs up before you head out as well. And subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to hit the notification bell because we are still doing so many shows a week that you do not want to miss any of them, which almost all of them are live. Also, check out my space ambient music channel, Cosmic Portals, that can help you fall asleep, meditate, relax, or even study too. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on the sky so that you do not miss any of my updates or news. Because when this new music track releases, you're going to love it. I'm telling you, it's my favorite track I've made so far. And it's still in the process, but I'm like, I think a lot of you are really going to enjoy it if you're into space ambient music. That is it for today. I'll see you next time. Be safe and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.